The story begins near the end of Jesus' ministry. Jesus has already gathered his 12 disciples, and crowds follow him everywhere. Miracles and teachings are happening, but the disciples do not truly understand who Jesus is or what his mission means. From the very beginning, Jesus sees that most of them are trapped in earthly thinking, unable to grasp the spiritual realities behind his presence. The disciples' misunderstanding day. Jesus approaches his disciples and finds them giving thanks over a meal as if they were performing a standard religious ritual. He laughs not to mock them, but because he sees they do not understand what they are doing. The disciples feel offended and confused. "Teacher, why do you laugh at us?" they ask. Jesus answers that they are praying to a God they do not truly know. Their minds are still tied to earthly ideas of worship, sacrifice, and authority. The disciples feel uneasy, yet they do not challenge him further. Judas steps forward among the 12. One man responds differently: Judas Iscariot. He sees Jesus' laughter and perceives something the others cannot. Judas approaches Jesus privately and says, "I know who you are. You are from the immortal realm of Barbelo, the true God." Jesus recognizes that Judas alone among the disciples understands his origin. He tells Judas that this insight makes him set apart from the others. Judas can see what the others cannot. A cosmic revelation just then begins, revealing to Judas the heavenly order of existence. He speaks of a realm beyond the physical world, the kingdom of the great invisible spirit. From this divine realm comes Barbelo, the first emanation, and from Barbelo, a series of aeons, spiritual beings and worlds invisible to human eyes. Jesus explains that the physical world was created not by the highest God, but by a lower, ignorant divine being called Saklas, also known as Yaldabaoth in other Gnostic traditions. Saklas, thinking himself a supreme God, created the human body and the flawed physical universe. The true God, however, is beyond all this, pure spirit and uncorrupted light. The fate of the disciples explains to Judas that the other 11 disciples will continue to worship Saklas without knowing it. They will establish religious systems and rituals based on misunderstanding, believing they honor God while actually serving a lesser, blind creator. Jesus says these disciples will lead many believers, perform works, and form institutions, but their understanding will remain tied to the physical world. Judas's unique role. Judas is disturbed by this revelation. Jesus tells him that he will surpass the others and become the greatest of the disciples, but his path will come through suffering. Jesus reveals a difficult truth. Judas must hand Jesus over to the authorities, not as betrayal, but as obedience to a divine plan. Jesus says, "You will sacrifice the man that clothes me," meaning Judas will help free Jesus' divine self from his physical body, which was made by Saklas. This is not treachery in the Gnostic view, but an act of harsh obedience that none of the other disciples could bear. The heavenly vision Jesus takes Judas aside and shows him a vision. Judas sees himself rejected by the other disciples and cursed by future generations. He sees violence on earth, religious confusion, and people worshiping the wrong gods. Judas trembles, asking Jesus whether he will be chosen or rejected. Jesus tells him that although people will hate him, Judas alone understands the truth. His soul will ascend to the divine realm, not to the corrupt world created by Saklas. Judas will play a role that allows Jesus to return to the immortal kingdom. The final days as the Passover approaches, tension rises. The disciples feel Jesus becoming more distant. In one scene, they have another dream full of symbols, visions of a corrupt temple, mistaken sacrifices, and flawed religious leaders. Jesus explains that these represent the future systems built by people who misunderstand his message. Meanwhile, Judas becomes increasingly isolated. He alone knows what Jesus has asked him to do. His destiny is heavy, and he feels the weight of being hated by the world. The agreement with the priests. Judas finally approaches the Jewish priests. The Gospel of Judas does not portray this as greed or betrayal. Instead, he is fulfilling the role Jesus assigned to him. He hands Jesus over to them, knowing that this action will free Jesus' spirit from the body created by the lower God. The text ends without narration of the crucifixion. Instead, it concludes simply, Judas handed Jesus over. The implication is that he has completed his divine mission.